Okay, boys and girls, I am going to go over Friday's assignment with you so that you can follow along if you have any questions. Um, so, our first slide here is to put the numbers in order from least to greatest. So, if you notice here, all of these are mixed numbers. And I know that let's see here, I have 1 2/3, 1 54 hundredths, 1 3/4, and 1 5/6. So I'm going to change 1 2/3 to a decimal, and I'm going to change that to 1 66 hundredths. And I'm going to change 1 3/4, which is 1 3/4, to 1 75 hundredths. Okay. And 1 5/6, 5 divided by 6 is going to give me something that starts with an 8 in the tens place. So I know that 5/6 is going to be a little bit more than 8/10. Okay. And so I have an 8 in the tens place. I could continue working this out, and my answer is going to end up being about 83 hundredths. Okay, so 5/6 is about 83 hundredths. So we could say 1 83 hundredths. And so once I have that, computer is a little bit slow today. So once I have that, then I can go back and compare these mixed numbers. So my smallest is going to be 1 54 hundredths. And you can think of this as like money. If I put a dollar sign, this isn't going to let me move this. If I put a dollar sign in front of that, that's going to look like $1.54. And then I would have 1 2/3 next, followed by 1 3/4, and then 1 5/6 would be last. Okay. All right. That one was a little bit tricky. Let's go to the next slide, and let me erase that. Okay, on this one, we are sorting these fractions into two columns here. So we have fractions that are going to equal 25 hundredths or a quarter, and fractions that are going to equal 33 hundredths. What does this little bar mean at the top? It means repeating. So we have 6 fractions down here. 3 are going to go on the side that's equal to a quarter or a fourth, and 3 are going to go over here. Obviously, which one is equivalent to a quarter? Do you see the fraction that is 1/4 or 1/4 over here? Yes. So we can go ahead and move that over. And then do we see 1/3 over here? Yes. Okay, so 1/3 can go here. All right, so now we need to talk about these others. So do you see anything else that's equivalent to 1/4? Yes, anything else that's equivalent to 1/4, Brady? 2/8 is equivalent to 1/4. Okay, anything else? What did you say? 4/12 is going to be a third. Let's think about, let me get my pen back out here. Let's think about if I started with 1/4 and I multiplied 1/4 by 2/2, that's going to give me 2/8. Well, if I multiplied 1/4 by 3/3, that's going to give me 3/12. If I keep going, I'm going to end up with 4/16. I can keep going and say 5/20. Do you see the pattern that is happening here? What's the pattern at the top of my numerators? Counting by ones. And how about on the bottom? 4, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. All of these fractions are equivalent. Okay. So 1/4 and 3/12 are going to be equivalent. So I'm going to slide 3/12 over here. And then these other two should be equivalent to 1/3. So let's do the same thing with 1/3. If I started with 1/3 and I multiplied 1/3, if I multiplied 1/3 by 2/2, that's going to give me 2/6. If I multiplied 1/3 by 3/3, that's going to give me 3/9. If I multiplied 1/3 by 4/4, that's going to give me 4/12, and I could continue with 5/15 or 6/18. So yes, 3/9 and 4/12 are equivalent to 1/3. Okay, so those would stay here on this side. All right, let's go to the next slide. I'm going to have to, oh yeah, my writing erases, good. Okay, put the numbers in order from least to greatest. So first thing, do I see anything that has a whole number attached to it? No. Okay, so that's not going to help me out here. So I'm going to turn all of these into decimals. All right, starting with 2/3. 2/3 are our repeating decimals. So if 1/3 is 33 repeating, 2/3 is going to be right, 66 repeating or 66/100ths repeating. So I'm going to put 66/100ths. We just talked about 2/8. I can reduce or simplify 2/8 into a simpler fraction to understand. Since they're both even numbers, since the numerator and the denominator are both even, that means I can divide them by 2 or cut each of those numbers in half. So if I cut 2 in half and I cut 8 in half, what would I end up with? 1/4. Okay. All right. And so I know that 1/4 is 25/100ths or a quarter. And then we just talked about 4/12 in our previous slide also. And so I can simplify this. I can think about this a couple of different ways. Since they are both even, I can break them in half, and that would give me 2/6. And then I would, if I can make my bar there we go. That would give me 2/6. And since they're both even, I can break them down like that again. And that would give me 1/3. Or I could just take 4/12 and find the greatest common factor and divide by that. Since 4 and 12, since 4 is a factor of 12, then I can divide 4 and 12 both by 4, and that would give me 1/3 in one step versus having to break it down and then break it down again. Okay, both ways are fine in reducing fractions. All right, so 4/12 we said was 1/3. Let me get rid of some of this. And we said thirds are our repeating decimals. So 1/3 is what as a decimal? Brady. Right, 33/100ths repeating. So let me make that. My pen is not cooperating. There we go. All right, so now everything is a decimal. And so I am going to compare my decimals now. I have 66/100ths, 125 thousandths. This is pretty close to 0. I have a quarter, I have 3/10, which is like 30 cents, and I have 33/100ths, or that would round off to 33 cents. So which one of these is the smallest? Whoops. This one is going to be my smallest. This is equivalent to 1/8. So this is pretty close to 0. I've got a 1 in my 10th place. So that's going to go here. And then I have 2/8, which is a quarter. And then I have 3/10, which is just a little bit smaller than 4/12. And then finally, 2/3 is going to be last. Okay, so that is going to be the order of that. All right. Slide 5. All you're doing here is putting these fractions with their matches. So we have 2/10, 5/10, 125 thousandths, and 875 thousandths. So which one of those is equivalent to 5/10, or which one is a half? Which one of those is a half, Brady? 4/8 is a half, okay? And we have 1/5, 1/8, and 7/8. These two fractions right here are close to 0, and this one is close to 1 whole. So which decimal do you see here that is almost 1 whole? 875 thousandths. So we know that has to go there. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so we are left with 1/8 and 1/5. Out of these two fractions, which one is the smallest? 1/8 or 1/5, Brady? 1/8 is the smallest, okay? 1/8 is the smallest, and it is going to match this smaller of the two decimals. If you remember, 1/8 is half of a quarter, all right? If a quarter is 25 hundredths, 1/8 is half of that. Half of 25 cents is going to be this, okay? So 1/8 goes with this, and 1/5 is equivalent to 2/10. Remember, 1/5 is equivalent to 2/10. Okay? All right, moving on. Maybe. Maybe not. Here we go. All right, let me get rid of this. All right. This time we're putting these in order from greatest to least. So, do we have anything that has whole numbers? Right here, this is a whole number, and also not a whole number, but this is a mixed number, and this is also a mixed number. So I have, this is close to 1.5, okay, or like $1.50, and 1 5/6 is close to what? 2 whole. Okay, so I know that this is quite a bit more than 1.5. 3/6 is exactly a half. So I know that this is going to be my biggest, followed by this one. And then I'm left with these decimals and fractions. So we talked about 2/8 again. Earlier, 2/8 is equivalent to what in simplest form? I can break down 2/8 so that it is 1/4. Good. All right, so this would be 1/4, which is also a quarter. And then 2/3, my thirds are my repeating decimals. So thirds are, if 1/3 is 33 repeating, 2/3 is going to be double that. So 33 and 33 is 66 hundredths repeating. All right, so here we have 66 hundredths. All right, repeating, and then everything is a decimal. So I've got 66 hundredths, 125 thousandths. Again, if we were thinking about change or coins, 66 cents. This is about 13 cents if you round it up. This is a quarter, and 3/10 would be 30 cents. So now we can look at those and put those in order. We're looking for the biggest out of the bunch, and that would be 2/3, followed by 3/10, followed by 2/8 or a quarter, and finally last is 125 thousandths, or this would be 1/8 as a fraction. Okay. Couple more here. I'm probably gonna run out of time because we're gonna have to switch classes. All right, I will do this and then I will save this video and then I will continue in my next group. So we are matching these fractions with decimals. All right, so right here we have our repeating decimals. So we should know which one goes with which. 66 hundredths is equivalent to 2/3. We do not have 1/3 here, but one of these does equal 1/3. And that would be 4/12 in simplest form. And then we have 2/8, which is the same as a quarter. And then 4/5 is almost one whole. And so 4/5 is equal to 8/10. Again, 4/5 is equivalent to 8/10, which we would write like this. And we can just say that's the same as 80 hundredths. Okie dokie. So there is part one. And I will